Star Trek Phase 2 New Voyages, along with Star Trek Continues, which came a bit later, is one of the two Star Trek fan series that really made headlines and were really a game changer in the Star Trek fan film genre, if you would want to call it that. Because they were the first that really upped the production quality of fan films in Star Trek. There was some okay, cool stuff before. Actually, there was some, pretty cool stuff before, but those two, they really increased the odds. They really upped the ante. And Star Trek Continues came a bit later. Star Trek New Voyages, they were the first. They were the first to do it. They both had the same premise of continuing the original 5-year mission of TOS with Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, Dr. McCoy. New Voyages Phase 2, it was the first, and it really made a big impression on me because it really showed how fans could make a fan fiction, a fan film of quality, something that is really good, that is not made by Paramount or a major studio, something that is really good to watch as a Star Trek fan. So it's really dear to my heart. It's a really good show and I really came to love it. And actually that's, when I look back at it, that's a really weird thing, because normally when I see a show and I see a really terrible pilot, I avoid the whole show. Like I remember, I'm a huge fan of the movie The Crow. Who isn't? Brandon Lee, The Crow, it's one of the best movies ever. And years later, years after the movie, they tried to make it into a TV series, and I watched the pilot of it, and it's the definition of cringe. It's like the worst thing you can imagine, and I don't know what they were thinking. It was so terrible, and I kind of forced myself through the entire pilot, but I didn't watch another episode after that. It was so terrible. But for some reason, New Voyages stuck with me, because the pilot of New Voyages is equally bad. But I think it's something subconscious at work. Like in music, there are some albums that need a few listens for them to click with you. And when you listen to an album for the first time and don't like it, you make a subconscious decision. If you don't like it and you decide subconsciously you will never like it, or you don't like it and you decide subconsciously, maybe I will listen to it a few more times, maybe it will click then. It's a decision you cannot make actively. You just have it subconsciously that you listen to it for the first time and you think, okay, I don't really like this, but something inside of you says either you will never like this or you should give it a few more listens. And with Star Trek New Voyages Phase 2, it was the same thing. Except not with a particular episode, like it is with albums, that you listen to the same album a few more times, but with the series itself, that later episodes you could really get into, they would really click. And the pilot, it never worked for me. It will never work for me, because it's really just terrible. But what worked was you could see they have their hearts in the right places. There is so much love in it, in the sets, in the costumes and everything. There is so much heart and so much love in it. And that's what kept me watching the series, and later seeing so many great episodes of that series. Great, unlike the pilot. But the heart and the love put into everything, all the visuals, all the sets, all the costumes, everything, and all the references, all the details, that was really good. But the pilot itself, the story, it's horrible. It's really horrible. In a way, it's a miracle I kept watching. But as I said, the love put into the visuals made it work to keep watching the series. But the pilot itself, it's just terrible, because let me sum up the story for you really quickly. The Enterprise encounters two alien entities. One is a pretty girl, one is an incorporeal entity of pure energy. And that's TOS enough, that's very TOS. But that's where the story ends. The whole episode, there's just the two entities. One is a pretty girl, one is an energy being. And there's nothing going on with it. You never find out who they are, what they want, why they are there, or why this episode is a thing at all. You absolutely don't see any justification for the thing you just watched, because you just have those two entities and they're there and they don't they don't do anything. They don't advance a story. There is no story. The entities are there, the characters are there, and there's a bit of talking and a bit of visuals, but nothing really happens. And I get that this is an amateur fan script. It was long before they got the likes of DC Fontana to write their scripts. But that's... Wow, who came up with this script in which absolutely nothing of any value happens? They just have these two entities there. And who are they? Why are they there? What do they want? What are they doing? They're just there. And in the end, they're gone. Nothing at all is going on. Everything is just there. And as a pilot, it's really terrible, but what makes it work as a pilot is that it shows the love put into the sets. The sets are amazing. They look exactly like the originals. The uniforms look exactly like the originals. The main actors, the main cast, they're amateur actors, but you can feel what they are putting into it, and they really have a knack for it. They don't match professional actors, especially not the amazing professional actors the original series had, but they're really putting all their heart into it, and it really works. So the cast, the sets, the uniforms, everything, the whole love for Star Trek put into the whole thing, that really works. The episode itself, it's completely, you can just throw it in the bin. Even the makers of the show disowned it and say, this is a pilot, this has nothing to do with our series, just forget about it. And I don't think you really need to watch it, just if you have a craving to see how New Voyages began. But you shouldn't just start with the official first episode in harm's way. Just start with that, because the pilot is completely useless, except back in the day when it first came out, to be a teaser about what New Voyages Phase 2 would be all about, with the visuals and the love for Star Trek put into it. By itself, it's just terrible, terrible, terrible.